previous groupings is deliberately arranged in chronological sequence, or the best possible approximation thereof. To this end, the order used in previous volumes has occasionally been altered, and the newly collected pieces have been integrated where appropriate. Date of composition was the criterion of choice. When this was not available or not dependable, date of first publication or other mentions became the guide. 11 of the newly incorporated 13 have never before been translated into English. 5 of them remained unpublished until the recent appearance of the new 13 in several European languages. One obvious bonus of the new arrangement is a convenient overview of Nabokov's development as a writer of fiction. It is interesting, too, that the vectors are not always linear, and a strikingly mature short story may suddenly crop up amid the younger, simpler tales. While illuminating the evolution of the creative process and affording exciting insights into the themes and methods to be used later, particularly in the novels, Vladimir Nabokov's stories are nevertheless among his most immediately accessible work. Even when linked in some way to the larger fictions, they are self-contained. Even when they can be read on more than one level, they require few literary prerequisites. They offer the reader immediate gratification whether or not he has ventured into Nabokov's larger and more complex writings or delved into his personal history. My translations of the new 13 are my responsibility alone. The translation of most of the previously published Russian stories was the fruit of a cloudless collaboration between father and son, but the father had authorial license to alter his own texts in their translated form as, on occasion, he deemed appropriate. It is conceivable he might have done so here and there with the newly translated stories as well. It goes without saying that, as lone translator, the only liberty I have taken was the correction of the obvious slip or typo and of editorial blunders from the past. The worst of those was the omission of the entire wonderful final page of The Assistant Producer in all English-language editions, it seems, subsequent to the first. Incidentally, in the song that twice meanders through the story, the Don Cossack, who heaves his bride into the Volga, Istienka Razin. I confess that, during the long gestation of this collection, I have taken advantage of queries and comments from hawk-eyed translators and editors of recent and concurrent translations into other tongues, and of fine-toothed inspections by those who are publishing a few of the stories individually in English. No matter how intense and pedantic the checking, a flounder or several will slip through the net. Nevertheless, future editors and translators should be aware that the present volume reflects what, at the time of its publication, are the most accurate versions of the English texts, and especially with regard to the 13 newly collected pieces of the underlying Russian originals, which were at times very hard to decipher, contained possible or probable authors or copyist slips, necessitating sometimes difficult decisions, and on occasion had one or more variants. To be fair, I would like to acknowledge with gratitude spontaneously submitted draft translations of 2 stories. One came from Charles Nichol, the other from Jean Barabtarlo. Both are appreciated, and both yielded trouvailles. However, in order to maintain an appropriately homogeneous style, I have stuck by and large to my own English locutions. I am indebted to Brian Boyd, Dieter Zimmer, and Michael Juliar for their invaluable bibliographical research. Above all, I am grateful to Vera Nabokov for her infinite wisdom, her superlative judgment, and the willpower that compelled her, with failing eyesight and enfeebled hands, to jot a preliminary translation of several passages of Gods in her very last days. It would take much more than a brief preface to trace themes, methods, and images as they weave and develop in these stories, or the echoes of Nabokov's youth in Russia, his university years in England, the émigré period in Germany and France, and the America he was inventing, as he put it, after having invented Europe. To choose at random from the 13 newly collected stories, La Veneziana, with its astonishing twist, echoes Nabokov's love for painting, to which he intended as a boy to dedicate his life, against a backdrop that includes tennis, which he played and described with a special flair. The other 12 range from fable, the dragon, and political intrigue, Russian